What's up, millennials? EHang is making very important moves to become the dominant player in the world of autonomous vehicles, and a lot has happened for EHang in the past weeks. If you haven't stayed up to date, in exchange for your time, I'm going to go over the most important information for EHang at this moment. We are going to talk about Investor Day, the French tech conference, the annual report, the talk on CNBC, and much more. So let's do it! And let us first talk about that Investor Day, because the thing is, a few months ago, back in February, we received this news from EHang that we were going to get a Investor Day in June of this year, so in 2021. But unfortunately, that has not happened just yet. If we go to the Twitter account of EHang, we can see that EHang has been preparing the Yongfu facility, the new facility, of course, for already 12 months, already 1 year. And the facility is going to be ready in June for production by the end of June, according to this article, or according to this piece of news on the Twitter account of EHang. And they also state that because of the COVID resurgence in the province of Guangdong, the event, the Investor Day, of course, is postponed. So we don't really know when the Investor Day is going to take place, but they are going to give us a 2 weeks notice before that is actually going to happen. And when it does happen, we're going to have access to the live video streaming of the entire conference, of the entire Investor Day, and we're also going to be having access to a replay of the entire event. And while we're talking about the COVID situation, the resurgence in the province of Guangdong, we can also talk a little bit about what EHang is doing exactly for the community, the Chinese community in Guangdong right now, because of that resurgence of the COVID in that province. Because right now they are working and they are helping on different tasks to help the people out there with, for example, logistics, emergency transportation, aerial inspections, and also transporting household supplies to the residents who are right now in the quarantine zones in this province. So it's actually really good to see that EHang is using its drones, of course, for daily real-life use cases. For example, the EH216L, which is the logistics drone that is being used for logistics, for the delivery of supplies to the people in the quarantine zones where usually the regular people can't really come, but of course the autonomous vehicles, the autonomous 216, the EH216, and the logistics drones, they can definitely go there because they don't need a pilot and they can just fly there autonomously. Apart from that, EHang was also present at the French tech conference VivaTech, where they showed their EH216 for passengers, of course, and they were talking a little bit about this product, that it has a maximum speed of 130 kilometers per hour, which of course is exactly the speed you should be using while clicking the like button on this video. It also has a flight distance of 35 kilometers, and it has a cruising speed of 100 kilometers per hour, so that means you can stay in the air for about 20 minutes or so. And the representative of EHang also mentioned that they are already operating in China and that about 100 vehicles are being used already. The CEO of EHang also mentioned a few things during a video which was showed during this VivaTech conference in Paris. He was talking a little bit about their systems, about their new drone types, for example. And in this video, we also saw some images from a pretty impressive command and control center that is going to be used by EHang to control all their drones, of course, autonomously and from a distance. And I think that AgEagle, the other drone company, which I sometimes make videos about, they are also going to have a control center like this one because of the acquisition of Measure, which is going to provide this control system to AgEagle. The CEO of EHang also mentioned a few things about the new type of drone they are going to be using, the VT30, and this is having a longer range than the other EHang 216s. This is going to have a range of about 300 kilometers and is going to be in the air for about 100 minutes instead of just about 20 minutes for the normal EHang EH216. And this VT30 model is both going to have a vertical takeoff option and also a normal taxi takeoff and landing option. So that is pretty good to see. And also they have an option to carry 2 passengers, just like the EH216. Then we also had a talk with the CNBC. The chief strategy officer of EHang talked with the CNBC to talk a little bit about drones, about regulation, for example. And he mentioned that they are currently talking with regulators, both in China but also in other countries, to try and commercialize their products within 24 months, so within 2 years' time, because he believes that regulation is definitely the biggest bottleneck. And this is something that we have been seeing from the CEO of AgEagle too, which is right now Brendan Torres-Declet. He says that the technology technology is already there, but the regulation is not there just yet. So that means they are not able to fly those drones legally just yet, while they could potentially do so already. In the case of EHang, they do have some trial flies going on, so they can do that, of course. But the thing is, we don't know for sure when the legislation, when the regulation is going to occur, so we can have more and more drones in the air. But not only the regulation could be a potential issue, but also the acceptation of the general public in using these autonomous vehicles, autonomous drones, because just like the article says over here, it might be difficult to convince passengers to take driverless cars or autonomous passenger drones, because that can definitely remain a major obstacle. So in that case, it definitely is going to take time for these customers to get used to how it feels to be in a driverless car or in an autonomous drone, and that we also might need to convince people that autonomous driving is actually safer and also a more convenient way of transportation. Let's then also talk a little bit about the valuation and the annual report of EHang of 2020, because according to the 10K, the annual report, they had about $27.6 million in revenue in 2020. Well, if you then take into account that EHang currently has a market cap of a little bit more than $2 billion right now, and if you take into account that the annual report or that the annual revenue, of course, was $27.6 million, then that gives you a price to sales ratio of 74, which is definitely on the high end. However, if we look at the Q4 revenue of EHang in 2020, we can see that that was $8.4 million. And if you annualize that, if you multiply that by 4 to get an annualized revenue, you would get $33.6 million in revenue for 2021, which is, of course, an estimate that doesn't necessarily have to be true, but that does give you a lower price to sales ratio of almost 61. Let's then also check out the research and development spend, because when I made the previous video about AgEagle, we talked a little bit about this. We said that AgEagle doesn't really spend a lot of money on research and development. I believe they spent about 14% of their revenue on research and development. But if you look at EHang, we can see a different picture over here, because if you look at the research and development expenses over here, we can see that was about $16 million for the year 2020, while having a revenue of $27.6 million. And that is definitely way higher compared to AgEagle's 14% on R&D spent. And according to the annual report, EHang currently has about 227 employees in total, and 128 of those 227 employees are working on research and product development. So that is about 56% of the employees working on research and development right now. We can also see that they currently have about $21 million in cash and cash equivalents, and if you take into account that the net loss of EHang in last year 2020 was about $14 million, then they still have cash left for about 1.5 years of operations. So as we can see, there's a lot of exciting things happening for EHang right now, and personally I'm most excited about the upcoming Investor Day at the Yangfu facility. It is too bad, of course, that the commercialization of the EHang vehicles might take about 2 years' time because of that regulation. But do keep in mind that investing in drones is likely an investment for the longer term, and personally I'm also doing exactly that. I'm probably investing in drones for the next 5 years or so. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing from you as well. Do you believe that EHang has what it takes to become the dominant leader in the world of autonomous drones? Let me know in the comments. And with that being said, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!